Please give it up for our girl, Evelyn.
So, dance was my first love. I grew up following in my older sister's footsteps to the ballet studio from the age of 3, and from there I was hooked. I was your typical perfectionist, uptight bunhead, the leotard, the tights, and I spent all my time in a dance studio in downtown Dayton with mirrors from wall to wall. And the studio was a home. It was where my friends were. It's where I spent countless hours training every weeknight, weekends, even summers away at camps for weeks at a time in different states. And even though I spent so much time in a studio surrounded by mirrors, I didn't really think that much about what I saw, because for me, it was all about performing and being on stage, and the feeling of being in front of an audience with such freedom and expression and musicality and artistry. And that's all I cared about, was chances to be on stage and perform. And all that training eventually paid off, because my senior year of high school, I auditioned and I was accepted into the Nashville Ballet in Nashville, Tennessee. And this was a really big deal, because this was like, okay, it's your dream. Age 18, you're moving to Nashville. And I felt so supported by everyone back home, but I also felt a little sense of pressure, right? So when I get to Nashville, I go from feeling pretty confident to feeling a little lost. See, it's hard to go from the big fish in the small pond at your home studio in Dayton to one of many small fish in a prominent Midwest ballet company. And I looked around, and all the other dancers seemed so confident and sure of themselves, and they seem to just know what they're doing and have it all together. And so the first half of the year there, I wasn't getting cast in dancing roles. Casting lists would go up, and it'd be kind of, you're on stage, but you're not really dancing. And so I started to think, there must be something wrong with me, I don't know what's going on. So when it came time for the mid-year reviews with the directors, I was very anxious to know their feedback. And they sat me down, and what they said was, we like your work ethic, you have good technique, but we need you to tone up. And I just remember feeling immediate shame, because in dancer talk, that means we need you to lose weight. And I'd never been told that before. But I was like, I'm a perfectionist, I know what I can do, I'll fix this. And so I go home and I start Googling. Don't do that. I found, 3-day crash diet, pretty much the most bland foods you could ever think of. And I start going to the gym and running. And what started out as a very earnest attempt to appease those directors turned into a spiral of under-eating and over-exercising. And it kind of worked. I got noticed by them. I started to get cast. So the next year I was able to perform. And that's what I wanted, right? But I thought from there I needed to double down. And I started making up a lot of what I would call weird food rules about where I could eat, what I could eat, who I could eat with. And I started exercising even more. So giving up lunchtime chats with the other dancers to go for a second run at the gym. And if you can imagine, living life like that is not very fun. It's isolating, it's lonely, and it's frankly kind of boring. Because when I wasn't in the gym, I was thinking about food and obsessing about food. And you kind of lose that sense of a social life. So going out to a birthday dinner becomes doing math in your head. And so I lost some spark and some personality. And I remember there was one, after a few months apart, my long distance boyfriend, now my husband, came to visit. And he put his arms around me because it had been a few weeks since we last saw each other, and he said, "Where did my girlfriend go?" And I wish at that moment that I had started to turn things around, but I was still really terrified that if I broke this routine, I'd lose my spot at the ballet and have to start over from square one. But deep down, I knew that this was not sustainable in the long term. And so I started to make plans to quit dance. The joy had been sucked out of it. I was burnt out, I was tired, and I wanted a fresh start. So I decided to move back to Ohio and finish up my degree and try to get healthy again. And what I can tell you is that healing's not a linear journey, and it doesn't happen overnight. Healing that relationship with both food and exercise. But sometimes healing happens in unexpected places. So my senior year at college, I moved into a sorority house with 30 other women. You might not think that's a good place to heal your relationship with food, but when I got there, there was a new routine. You see, meals were shared around a table with other women, and we all ate the same prepared meals. And there was laughter, and there was inside jokes, and there was community with people who loved you. And I realized I was missing that so badly. And it's something I hold true to today, is that I would consider myself a foodie now, because I love going out to eat with friends and family and sharing a meal around a table, because that's what life is about. And over the years, my relationship with exercise has changed in a big way too. You probably won't find me in a ballet studio anymore, but you will find me at Rinse Cycle downtown, where it's probably the most empowering community around exercise that I could imagine. It's spin cycling and a bike that goes nowhere in a dark room with candles and people around you who care about you. It's probably the most empowering thing, and there's no mirrors. And as I've started to heal both my relationship with food and exercise, I've realized that life has become so much more full, so much more joyful, and so much more abundant when I stop trying so hard to shrink.